welcome to what is a surprise show. Yes, a surprise for you, the wonderful audience that has been so good to me. This is going to be episode 170 of the Mike the New Haven podcast. It's being pre-recorded. This is not live. It's on a Monday that I'm recording this. You'll hear this Friday. So it's a little bonus episode that you're going to get as a treat because there's two other shows coming up at the time that I'm recording this week. You'll have already heard those. And you're really going to love this one. So I'll get right into it. My next guest lived a real-life version of Hollywood's portrayals of law enforcement and the bad guys that they chase. A sangre caliente, Spaniard from the mean streets of New York City. He came up in Red Hook, Brooklyn, an alum of both St. Francis and Queens College. He was once a welterweight finalist in the New York Daily News Golden Gloves tournament, a 32-year veteran of law enforcement. He first began with the ATF in 1971 and later moved to the DEA in 1975. Where for the next 28 years, he worked some of the most notable investigations in recent memory, and that is retired Special Agent Lou Diaz, who for the surprise episode of the Mike the New Haven podcast, the bonus show you will hear Friday, joins me now. Welcome, Lou. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for being here. We got to know each other through our mutual friend, Joe Sanchez, so it's nice to get in touch and have an opportunity to talk. So you grew up in Red Hook, like I said when I was introducing you. Take me through it.
Well, I grew up in Red Hook, Brooklyn, born and raised. Brooklyn itself, during that period of time, we're talking 1956 and on, okay, was had a smorgasbord of kids in the street. You know, soldiers came home and married and had a lot of kids, okay. If there wasn't 20 kids on a block, there wasn't any. And then one block had like maybe 8 brownstones or 10 brownstones, and each brownstone had 4 apartments, and each apartment had 4 to 6 kids. You could imagine, you know. But we all got together. We all got along well sometimes. There was a lot of fighting in between us. But on the whole, I got to say that simply a beautiful experience growing up in Brooklyn, particularly for me. We played all kinds of games, all kinds of street games that you may know of. Stickball, Johnny and the Pony, Ivanhoe. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Besides that, where I lived, right across the street from me, was a churchyard. We called it a churchyard. It was an abandoned church, but big church, a Protestant church, that had a fire, but it was still intact to some degree. It had a mansion on the property. After that, there was another courtyard, again, big, okay? So you could imagine, we kids used to play in there day and night. We used to try and find holes in the church. And it was a mystery to go here because we were told there was dead people in it. So we would try to find these people or look for ghosts. It was just simply great. But anyway, beyond that, we played it all day. Beyond that, we had wars. That was typical of my neighborhood. We had what they called grass wars. You pull the grass out and it's got dirt underneath. You know, I don't know if you ever did that.
Mm-hmm.
And we were flinging at one another. If you hit somebody, he was dead. Dirt all of them, yeah. And we played with rocks too. We threw rocks at one another. And there was one fellow who was my best friend. We grew up together, Jimmy Riley. Mm-hmm. If there was a rock thrown in Brooklyn, it would land on his head. If he got a GI haircut, you would see a puzzle of marks and scratches and scars. It was incredible, and he was always getting hurt bad, always getting hurt. But he was one of my boys, you know. Right. Beyond that, let's see. We played, like I said, stickball, softball. If you want me to, I can get into the serious stuff about the street and what we were involved with. But we're going to need 2 days to get involved with it. Well, anyway, we also had egg fights, okay? We had water balloon fights. We were always fighting or doing something, okay? Then we had the schoolyard, PS 29s, all right, which is right around the corner from us. And we played softball. There was two fields. However, and usually we played on Saturday, and during the summer you could play during the week. If you didn't get there on time, the neighboring kids would come and take the field. In order for you to get the field, you had to fight their guy. Okay, I was always the guy that got elected to fight their guy. Okay, and most of the time, well, I must say I won most of the time.
Oh, good.
And we got to play ball. With that, I established a reputation for myself. That led on to other things, which I may go into just a little later. But we did that, and I get to that point. The word got out about me through a couple of venues. One of them was with a guy named Perky. Okay, Perky was a great guy, muscular guy, short like me. and we hung out on a corner. Ebel's was the ice cream place,
Right.
on that corner, on Henry and Warren. All the guys that were made guys, or wise guys, used to pass that corner. Okay, to take the bus, to take the train, it was a focal point for traveling. All right, Perky was always passed by there. He would always see me and grab me by the neck and give me what it's called a noogie, rub my head like that.
Sure.
Anyway, we also used to shadow box together. Okay,
Mm.
and then he got word of me doing that stuff with a baseball. He said, "You know what, kid? You're a tough little guy. I'm gonna get you to meet somebody." Yeah, who? Joe Gallo. Are you kidding me? No, he's my man. I said, well, let's go. So he took me to President Street and Henry. And wouldn't you believe I met Joe Gallo? What a guy. Joe Blond and his brothers, Kid Blast. And who was his brother? The other, well, I forget his other brother's name. But anyway, handsome fella.
Mm.
And he said, Louie, if I can help you in any way, matter of fact, what do you need for your baseball team? Well, we could use a little money for bats and balls. And man, he gave me a wad of money to buy all these things. I said, Joe, thank you. Thank you. So we left, and I got to my group. I said, look what I got. So we spent the money on the things that he gave me the money for. Let's see, what else was there? Okay, beyond that, I was always getting in some kind of trouble. I wasn't a malicious kid. I was mischievous, okay?
Right. There's a
First, he
difference.
got me in trouble, big trouble. Was one day he passed by, and he threatened me, or how would you say, he obliged me to pull a fire alarm on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Perky, what are you going to do? I can't do that. He dared me. So I wanted to get into, I wanted to please him because these guys were, like I said, big guys for me.
Mm.
So I pulled the alarm. The thing went off. There was firemen. The fire trucks responded like within seconds.
Mm.
I ran out of there like a bee out of a beehive. I got home. I went under the bed. I must have been there for like a couple hours, right? My father got a hint of it. And then when he saw that I did that, heavy-handed. And then on top of that, he punished me. And I hated what he did to me. 30 days on the bricks. Inside the house, I couldn't go out. It was the summer. Everybody was off. The kids were in the street, and I could see them from my window. But I said the block was right in front of me. The church was right in front of me. And however, from there, I would talk to my friends. They would throw me a ball up. I would throw it back to them. So I played a little bit with. So that happened. Let's see what else. A lot of things happened. You want me to go into the things that happened?
Well, actually, I wanted to move it along, and that was a great description, of course, to some of the other things that you did. And I guess so. The question I can ask you is, even though you were mischievous, a lot of kids at that age are very impressionable, and what they see in the street often molds them for who they are down the road, either for the better or for the worse. Unfortunately, in some cases, did you always want to be in law enforcement? Was there something that you saw early on that inspired you to take that path?
No,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of wanted to be a gangster. Why? I really did, but not for what they did, but for the image that they reflected. Okay,
Right.
but I was soon taken out of that mental thought by my father. My father was very tough, and then also I had the advantage of being raised a Roman Catholic. I went to Catholic school, St. Paul's Catholic School. I was taught by the Sisters of Charity. They were tough too, maybe tougher than some of the gangsters because they were like hitting people.
Mm.
So anyway, I had that behind me, and that made me not choose that way of life.
Mm.
From there, I grew up. I went to college, and when my first year of college at St. Francis, my friend and I, Nicky Barnes, who became chief of police for NYPD later on, we wanted to go to Vietnam, so we left school. We left school. And we went down to to wherever it is that you joined the army. We went in there. They took him, but they didn't take me. I said, why? Because I had enrolled for naval officers training,
Mm.
and I was committed to them, but they couldn't take me. So one of the officers that told me, listen, what you can do is push your draft, and you can get into the army that way. So I said, okay. So I did that. I pushed my draft. I got a letter from the president. You're welcome to come down. What was it, Whitehall Street or whatever it was. And I did so. And then the next was my story for 2 years, which is another book. From the time I get on the bus the time I landed in Fort Jackson. I got to tell you that story. Are you willing to hear it?
Sure.
Okay. We travel to Fort Jackson. I get off the bus with my boy, and you have the typical stories of that drill sergeant. Get off the bus, you maggots. You have that
Right.
same thing. So we got off the bus. We were all lined up, and he starts to address all of us. Where are you from? Everybody said, where are you from? Comes to me. Brooklyn, New York. Oh, tough guy, huh? Oh, wait a minute, sir. I'm no tough guy. I may look like one, but I'm not. Oh, you were talking back to me, too. Sir, you talking to me, ain't you? Oh, you know what you're going to do? You're going to clean every fire extinguisher in this particular area in the company. I said, what's going on with that? You're going to do it. He gave me a can of Brasso and some Gregs. I left the line that I was in, and I went out to the different how would you say, barracks.
Yeah.
Okay. And I started to clean the freaking fire extinguishers, to polish them. Right? So and I had two friends that I came up with on the bus. A guy named Ramirez, big guy, Spanish guy, by the way. And who else? I forget the other guy. But Ramirez was really a good guy. He said, Louis, don't worry about it. I'll save you a bed when you get out of there. Okay, so I felt good about that. So anyway, I must have cleaned about maybe 10, 15, and I said I got tired of it. So I said, I wonder if I can get out of here and sneak back into the barracks where I was supposed to be. I give it a shot. So I did. I snuck back in there, and I got into the barracks where Ramirez was. And he was there in a cot. He said, Louis, hey. So I was there. He gave me a bed. I slept there. And let's see what happened after that. From there, we were assigned to go to our different places, our duty stations. I was assigned to go to Booting, Germany. We took a ship from Fort Hamilton to Germany. That was an experience in itself, too. The ship, the capacity for that ship was 2,000 men. We had like 3,000. 3,000. And it took 9 days to get to Germany. You had it for breakfast. You had to get up at 4 in the morning, right? I never took a bath while I was there because you couldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Everything was a problem. Everything was a problem. Everything was problematic. Anyway, let's see. We got to Booting in Germany.
Well, you spent 2 years there. We're talking to Lou Diaz here. This is a surprise episode of the Mike Colón podcast, a bonus show, episode 170. You'll hear this Friday. It's being recorded on a Monday. So you spent, like I said, 2 years. You kind of entered into it now, going out to Germany. Oftentimes it translates well if you go into a career in some kind of service, rather it be civil service locally or in your case federally, because they always talk about these guys and gals being very squared away as a result, and they kind of have a leg up. So those 2 years, how would you say it helped you in terms of your personality and molding you into who you were throughout your career and of course who you are today?
Well, I'll tell you, I did enjoy, but to some degree, being in the army. I wouldn't do it again. But I learned how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
How to clean my clothes, save my money, all these different things that you would do by yourself. So if anything, basically those are the big lessons that I learned in the army. How to take care of myself. That was a big one. Also how to deal with other guys. Because there was a lot of guys, everybody had a story, and everybody had a way of getting around, getting along. Okay. And so I had to get into that bailiwick of how to deal with guys. You talk about different races. They were right there. They were like Hindus. They were Indians, Apaches. There were a lot of people there. But it was tough too, Michael. Tough because there was a lot of racism where I was, okay? And you had to deal with it. As soon as I got there off the bus, I was told to go to B Troop, okay? My duffel bag. I smelled like onions because I hadn't taken a bath. Got to B Troop, knocked on the first sergeant's door. I could see him. Kept knocking. He wouldn't answer the door. You son of a... I kept knocking. He wouldn't answer the door. Finally, I would have said the word. I opened the door. I went in. I dropped my... What's up? Hey, what are you doing? It was very hard with me. Who told you to come in here? Huh? Who told you to talk to me like that? Sir, I'm sorry, but I had to get in here. I want to know what's going on. I want to report. He says, you know what? You're going to report. Sergeant so-and-so, come over here. Take this kid downstairs to the dungeon. I just got there. Takes me down to the dungeon with my duffel bag. He shows me a white can with what do you call it? Whitewash with paint.
Right.
He start painting these walls. I just got here, man. I haven't eaten, I haven't slept. I smell like onions. Oh my Lord. So I start painting. What am I gonna do? As I'm getting to the end of one wall, I almost paint this kid that was painting the other side of the wall. He was a black kid.
Mm.
It was Hodge. We became intimate friends from there on. So he goes, "What the hell are you doing? I just got here, man." He says, "Listen, take it easy. You must have done something wrong." I says, "Yeah, I challenged the first sergeant." Well, that's enough, okay? So he says, "Listen, they must be all going home. I'm going to take you to my place, and we're going to go from there." He took me to his barracks, squared me away, found me a bed, and from there we went to the mess hall. When we went to the mess hall, I see this table with a bunch of guys, okay? Tough-looking guys. So he brings me to one guy named Johnny Rosa. He introduces him to me. He says, "Johnny, this is this guy, Louis Diaz." I think he's a tough guy because he told him what I did and how it happened. Johnny said, "All right, sit down. We'll take care of this." Johnny was the leader of this particular group, okay? And what this group did, it was like a mafia. They took care of the soldiers that were in that group. If they were in trouble, they had connections with the MPs. If they came late from downtown, they could eat because we had connections in the kitchen. If they needed a sick day, we had connections in the sick bay. Whatever they needed, we had supplies. We had it all covered. Okay. So anyway, that was the situation. After about 3 or 4 months, me being there, Johnny says to me, "You know what, Louis? I'm leaving. I'm leaving in about a couple of weeks. You're taking over." "Johnny, how you doing that?" "I got to take it over because you got what it takes." So I was flattered that he did so. Okay, so I did accept it. And then from then on, it was taking care of business, doing what he did. Guys needed a day off. I would send them to sick bay. We had a guy there. He would give him a pass, so forth and so on. Uh, and also, if a guy had a problem downtown, we sent a couple of guys down there to square it away. But that was that. We got so powerful. It was like a mob, I'm telling you, that they sent what they call Inspector General to investigate us. Okay? Or they couldn't really find anything. Nobody would testify. Uh, we went as far as one night. We had a guy on duty, guard duty, and they gave him a hard time. We went to the barracks where this guy was from. He was a sergeant, actually.
Mm.
And he was in bed. We beat the piss out of him. Beat the piss out of him. After that, the MPs came after us, but we had one MP that knew who I was, so he took care of me. But that was that. There. What else was? Oh, then I don't know if you want to get into this, but from there I went into the boxing team. I don't know if you want to get into that.
And you were, as I mentioned when I was introducing you, were welterweight finalist at one point. Was that kind of as a means to keep you out of trouble?
It was to keep me out of trouble and to establish a rep for myself.
Mm.
And the story behind that is kind of interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I don't know if you want to go into that.
Go right ahead.
Again, like I told you, my neighborhood was a bunch of tough guys, good guys. And that neighborhood was full of gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
There was also gangster cops. And
Yeah.
there was two detectives that always were rousing us. And also were taking money, numbers, all kind of stuff. They did everything that was illegal. And one day I was on a corner with my boys. I used to carry that Rocky hat. I don't know what you call it, but it's not a Carnaby cap. But it's a like showman cap.
Right.
And I was there with Jimmy Riley, Tommy McMahon, Mikey Calavito, Gerard Capelli. So it was about 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. These guys pull up right on the corner where we were. They get out. "What are you guys doing? You creating problems?" I just, "Officer, no, we're just talking. Wise guy, huh?" "No, I'm not a wise guy." He said, "I'll tell you what, let me start with this guy." So he starts with Jimmy Riley, pushing him. I said, "Don't do that. Don't do that. I'll do it to you." He said, "No, you're not going to do it to me." I had a short fuse then, and I was good with my hands. Uh, I got into him. I laid him out. I got in big trouble. They locked me up. They took me in a car. The whole neighborhood got rallied. All the people from the buildings, the Italians would lean out the window on their pillows. to watch everything was going on in the street, yelling, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Leave that kid alone." They took me to the squad car, and all my friends followed me. The precinct wasn't that far away. They took me inside. I was fortunate enough that the desk sergeant was Sergeant McCarthy. He liked me because I was with the PAL, and I brought a lot of guys in, In those days, they gave you a card and a little badge as part of the PAL. And when I got there, he said, "What's going on, Louis?" I got in trouble with these guys, Sergeant. I tell you right now, Louis, these guys don't know whether they're gangsters or cops. I'll take care of it. And he took care of it. They didn't press charges. However, he said to me, "In order to fend this situation, I want you to go to a boxing gym, the Trinity Club. And I want you to stop boxing." And that's what I did. That's how I started fighting.
Wow. It went well for you.
Huh?
It went well for you and went very well. And then I think, as far as the toughness aspect is concerned, I think it translates well into your entry into law enforcement. Like I said, you started with the ATF, not with the DEA. You went to the DEA later, but the ATF, they needed back then some tough customers for a place like New York and really the country as a whole, where firearms were coming in left and right. And part of it is undercover work. You come from a tough background. I imagine, and this is a two-legged question. First, how did you get into the ATF? And second, when you got to the point where you were doing undercover work, did you model your undercover persona after, who you naturally were from Red Hook through the military and all of that?
Good questions. Again, it's going to take a day to answer, but make a long story short, if I can.
Yeah.
My wife and I bought a house, and I was one of the first ones to buy a house. I was like 22. We bought a house for $32,000 in Flushing, Queens. I had a kid by then. So I always used to walk him around the neighborhood. And there was this guy in the corner who was always out there waving to everybody, and he would wave to me. So one day I was on the other side of the street. He said, "Hey, kid, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, what am I doing? I'm walking my kid." He said, "How would you like to come over my house and have a beer?" "Well, I got to put my kid away." He said, "I do it." So I brought my kid into the house. I came back to his house. He brought me in. The minute I stepped in the house, I was taking whatever. He had pictures of him with President Nixon. He had all kinds of citations. I mean, I was really blown away. I said, "Joe, what the hell do you do?" He says, "I'm a treasury agent." I said, "That's what I always wanted to do." And I did want to do that because I was a great fan of Elliot Ness.
Mm-hmm.
That's when
Okay,
it
the
started.
Untouchables, yeah.
I tell you what, that's when it first started. I wanted to be like an Elliot Ness. And I said, "God, I love that program. I love, the Treasury Department, what they do." He said, "Well, we'll take care of it." He said, you're Spanish speaking. And I did. I also spoke Italian. So we could use somebody like you. I said, "Well, can you do it for me?" So make a long story short, if I can, he spoke for me and he got me in the door, but I had to take a test, a law enforcement test for Treasury test. So I signed up to take it. Would you believe on my way there, I get a flat tire and I couldn't get there on time. I had to fix it. And I get there, they said, "Get out of here. You can't come in now." So I had to reschedule. I went back again and I passed. I got high marks too. And from there, I went to ATF. I joined ATF. And from there, the story begins. I moved on and on and on.
We're talking with Lou Diaz here, the Mike Colón podcast, episode 170. Like I said, surprise show for you, the listeners. And when you hear it, I hope that you'll enjoy it. I know I have to this point. So 71 to 75 is where you spent it, and you worked it, in your backyard, essentially, the New York area. And this era is when the mob really ran New York. Even when New York was falling apart with what the FDNY refers to as the war years, with all the arsons going on, particularly in the Bronx, even when you had that moment in which I think it was the New York Post, the New York Times had the cover of Ford, the city dropped dead because of the city's economic woes. The one thing that was constant is in areas where La Cosa Nostra operated, the economy was strong because they ran it, and they ran it with an iron fist. They really kept New York City, I hate to say it, from going completely under the water in terms of money back then. And here you are operating in the midst of that, when you had the connection prior to Crazy Joe Gallo, who'd been gunned down a few years before. Getting in there and getting close. Were your superiors, because, unfortunately, this is right around the time that Serpico blew the whistle and the NAB commission was formed. Were they concerned about you getting too close because of that reason, or did they figure because of your prior connections to give you free reign to get as close as you wanted to?
That was more of the answer what you just said.
Mhm.
However, when I got in it for the first time, this guy approaches me
Mhm.
and he introduces himself, Ray Martinez. I said, "Hi, well, how you doing?" We said, small talk. And he said, I just got on the job from Puerto Rico. Oh, nice to meet you. From there, we were introduced to Sal Swerzy, who was a group supervisor for the group that we were about to join. He was like Jiminy Cricket, smoking a cigar, very funny, very, how do you say, motivated, very active.
Mhm.
And, oh, look at what I have here. We're going to get a lot of mileage out of you. You're going to be like a little Toyota and get a lot of mileage out of you for a little gas.
Mhm.
So from there, we got assignments, but not so much do we get assignments. Me and Ray, we worked what is called cold cases. We go out there and make our own cases. Most of the other guys, typical agents, if I may say, very Anglo-Saxon looking, college looking,
Right.
they didn't get over it, but they did other things. I respected them for the other things they did. But me and Ray were the iron horses of the group, of the area, actually, what is called the North Atlantic region.
Right.
So we would go out there. For example, I knew the area, Ray knew the area. I knew what hotspots were in Brooklyn and New York, mostly Brooklyn, right?
Mhm.
So we would go hang out in a bar, particularly bar that I would go to, and I would mingle that with going home. On my way home, I would stop at this bar, have a couple of drinks. How are you? How you doing? Go home. Come back the next day or a couple of days later, the same thing. So I was getting acquainted with the people. They were getting acquainted with me. Okay. I'm going to keep Ray out of this for now. So as I'm getting acquainted with these guys, one of the fellas asked me, "What do you do?" I says, "Well, a little bit of this, a little bit of that." And when you say that, you're telling them that you're crooked. That was the thing back home. A
Mhm.
little bit of this, a little bit of that. You're a wise guy. So what is a little bit of that? I said, "Well, I do illegal cigarettes and I do guns." Really? Well, I could do cigarettes right now for the bar. I got a little store. I said, okay. So I went down. We had a connection with, I don't know what you call it, but before they put the stamp on it, they had this place in Long Island City with the cartons of cigarettes came in. So
Mhm.
I got the right to buy them there with an official letter from the Treasury Department. So I would buy cartons and sell them cheap for these guys. Okay. That was a great entry for me. Okay. Then after that, uh, the guy asked me if I could do guns. I said, you know what? On the contrary, I'm looking for guns. So a couple of days later or the next week, he comes to me and says, "You know what, Louis? I just got this pen gun. You guys might be interested in." I said, "What's that?" It's a pen. Looks like a pen, but it fires a bullet. I said, "Cool. I might be interested in that." So he shows me the pen. So well, let me try it out. So I go into the bathroom and I discharge around into the toilet. What? So I come out and hey, it works. He said, "I told you it would work." Yeah. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to get a guy that I know he might be interested in this. I'll come back and let you know." That's one of the things we're working undercover. You don't want to jump on it right away.
Right.
You
Got to
know,
take your time.
you take your time, milk them, get them interested, whet their appetite. So anyway, I came back maybe a couple of days after. I said, "What?" I think his name was Chico. Or anyway, I said, "Chico, guess what? I got a guy who's interested in buying these." He goes, "Good." I says, "Well, how many does he want?" "Well, let's start small. Give me about 10. Okay. So he gives me 10. I come back with the money. And he says, "Wow, can we do this on a steady basis?" I says, "Yeah. However, I don't want to get in the middle of this. I'm going to bring my guy here and he's going to do it." I told the guy, "Listen, I got a guy now, a different guy
Mhm.
that wants to buy a lot of these guns. He's got an outlet for them."
Mhm.
So he said, "Okay, let's do it." So I brought the guy, I introduced him to him. He made the deal with the, what I say his name, with Chico.
Mhm.
He made the deal with him. They consummated the deal. The deal went down. He got his guns. Now I walked in and I said, "Oh, the guy's very happy with it. But now he wants to do a bigger deal. Let's see what we can do." So he said, "Okay, let's do it." So we made plans to meet in a parking lot where he worked. He worked in a factory that abutted the parking lot, and he was going to have about 100 pen guns with him, and I was supposed to have. I think it was $5,000. Okay, uh, so I had the $5,000 in the trunk. Back then, if there was any trouble or there was a arrest going down, you open the trunk of the car. That meant either you arrest the guy or everything was okay. Okay, so we get there. He's there. We're talking. I said, let's do it. I open up the trunk, but not for to activate it for them to come in on me, but to show them that I have the money. So when I showed them I have the money, I closed the trunk and opened it again. That was the arrest sign. So everybody came. They didn't come running in. I'm waiting for these guys to come in, and they didn't come in. I said, oh my God, they didn't come in. I'm waiting. I said, I'm gonna have to do this myself. So I had my gun in the back, on my back, pulled it out. I said, listen, buddy, you're under arrest, okay? The guy didn't believe me. He didn't believe me. No way, you're a cop. And he got his hands up and he reached for something. I said, don't do it, please, don't do it. I don't want to shoot you. He jumped at me. I dropped the gun. We battled on the floor, went at it back and forth. And thank God my guys came at that time and they saved the situation. So that was that with that. What was that with that? So that was one of many cold cases that I had with Ray. I mean, it went on and on. We made a lot of cold cases like that. Who else was there? Then there was other guy. Hold on a second. Let me think of this guy. He stole guns from an armory. Okay. So we had now this time we had an informant. Informants are very critical to your case. They're your bread and butter. For most guys, like I said, me and Ray, most of the time we didn't need them because we did our own stuff, But informants that are good, they're good. They make good cases for you. But you make them as a result of the information that he gives you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he gave us information about this guy. We went to see him. He was a retired soldier, and he had machine guns, M16s, automatics, that he had stolen little by little from an armory that he was stationed at. So we made a deal to buy the machine guns. We bought a few of them, and finally we were going to make a big one. We did it. We took them down. That was the name of that too. Now, there's one more that I'm going to tell you about. I used to go to this bodega. Like I said, I knew these places, right? On the way home, I have a coffee or whatever. On the way to work, I stopped by also. The proprietor, Pepe, was a good, nice guy. One day I'm in there, water starts coming down from the ceiling, and this man goes ballistic. He goes, blah, blah, mother, blah, 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 mother, blah, blah, blah. He's cursing this guy up and down, up and down.
Narcotics, they tend to go hand in hand because as this is a conversation I've had with other individuals who come from a federal law enforcement background. What are drug dealers carrying for protection? Firearms normally. So the transition is a seamless one. So you get in there and a series of things happens. And that brings us to really the meat and potatoes of your career. And you have many stories, of course, as you just said, but this is the one that a lot of people mostly know you for. And that was the Barnes investigation. Here's a guy that's not like La Cosa Nostra in that he's an African-American gentleman who has built up an empire in a time in which the circumstances weren't that friendly to people like him. But here he is making millions. He's on the cover of magazines. He's deemed Mr. Untouchable because he's flaunting it. He's not trying to hide what he is and who he is. And somehow, some way, you worked an operation that helped bring him down. So how did you get involved in that?
Okay. Prior to my getting involved in a particular investigation,
Right.
there was an investigation conducted by the police department. Right now, I don't remember the name, but it was a slick name for him,
Mm-hmm.
However, they couldn't do anything with him. He always evaded being arrested. Additionally, when they did arrest him and he went to court, he was arrested 12 times and they beat it. 12 times he beat being convicted on anything.
He was Gotti before Gotti, like they call Gotti the Teflon Don.
Yes, he was, And he carried himself well. I got to tell you, Mike, he really commanded respect,
Right.
He actually commanded my respect as well, Because the guy was cool, really cool. So anyway, make a long story short, my people targeted him on a federal level. They came to me because of my experience, and they said, "Listen, we want you to go undercover in Harlem to get this guy Nicky." I said, "Well, let me know more about him." So they briefed me, and I got educated on the guy. I said, "Well, you got anybody could take me in, because that's a hard call, you know?"
Mm.
He says, "We got this guy Geronimo, who just passed away, God rest his soul, and he has information on Nicky, plus Wally Fisher and Guy Fisher, who are his right hand man. Guy Fisher's in jail right now, but Wally is second in command, and he knows a lot about it. He can introduce us because Wally likes me, you know." So Geronimo tells Wally about me, and the story that he tells him is that I was out on the coast for a year or so because I got hot with the mob guys, because I was doing things with them. I wasn't just doing deals with a specific family. I do stuff with various families. I wasn't committed to anyone in particular. But after a while, he started looking at me with his jaw on the side. What is this guy up to? What can this guy might be able to betray us at one point or another? So I got the hint and I left, but I didn't leave. I left, came back. That was my cover story. I came back to Geronimo. Geronimo brought me to Wally. I remember that night, it was in Harlem. There was a barrel with fire coming out of it. I pulled up my Cadillac. Geronimo gets out. And we played a scene of my being a wise guy. I was in the back seat. I had a cashmere coat, the whole thing, the whole shebang, you know. And he calls Wally over. We introduce each other. We talk. I give him a spiel about what I want to do. And I told him basically, I want to start a route. I got people that are interested. I got customers, but I can't open my store yet because I don't have the product. Okay. However, when I get the product, I got to get it on a steady basis and from somebody worthwhile. I'm not going to get scammed or get shorted or get buy turkey from anybody. Right? There's Louis, no problem. I bring you to the right guy, the man, Nicky. Oh, I hear that. I go, well, this is a guy, right? So anyway, he takes care of, how do you say, late model cars or new cars.
Yeah.
I never got that straight. But anyway, so what was it named? Anyway, it was a garage where all these cars were kept. Nicky kept his cars there. Rolls Royce, Mercedes Benz, Cadillacs, all kind of stuff. So I walked into the garage with Geronimo. I said, Jesus Christ, Wally, what is this? Well, this is Nicky's place. This is where he keeps his cars. Said, damn, man. So he says, listen, can we do something? He says, I got the deal for you. I set it up with a guy named Petey Rollock for an eighth of heroin, an eighth of a key. I said, okay. So we were supposed to meet at a certain time, but never went down. Okay, I was there with Geronimo. I had the money, but the guy never came. So that was that. However, there came a time when he did come by. We started to deal at a what was the name of the bar? Usually it was a bar or something or a club, and this place was called, I don't remember right now. It was like 30 years ago.
Sorry.
You know.
Sorry. Don't worry about it.
So anyway, the deal was set up at the bar. Wally goes in, tells the guy that I'm there. Wally comes out. He tells me that the guy needs X amount of money to give me half the product. Again, I trusted him. I gave him half, which I wasn't supposed to do. I gave him half the money. I was always doing things, which in a way were contrary to policy, but that's the only way I was going to get things done, you know? And basically for me at that time, well, my whole life, uh, laws are certainly made to give people a guideline on how to behave, you know,
Mhm.
and what they have to do to be safe and what have you. But they're not for to restrain one's creativity and and mind. They're not to imprison one's creativity, and that's how I felt about it. That's why I let go a couple of times. So anyway, I fronted the money through Wally. Wally came back with half the package. I tested it. It was good. He went back with another half. At this time, I pulled away. We went into an alley right by the bar and grill with Geronimo. Wally was in the back seat. I told Geronimo, if I put on the flashes, all right, that means we're getting hit. Okay. So anyway, we're in the alley. Geronimo goes to the club. He comes back. He says, we got the package. He's on his way. But he wasn't on his way. He had to give it to Wally or G. And he did. Put it back to the car. I tested it. By the way, my test kit was not the standard kit that they give you on the job. It was what they give you on the job was manufactured test kit. It was like a plastic, uh, how would you say, a plastic holder or whatever. And then it had the marquee test in it, the nitric acid or hydrochloric acid, and you would put the dope in there and it would turn either purple or blue to indicate what kind of stuff you had, right? I had, so I wouldn't blow that. I wouldn't ever use that because shit. That indicates that you're a man, maybe, you got that professional desk kit, So and I'll tell you another little story behind that, how I did this. When I bought dope, we used to bring it to the lab, okay, to get what they call an immediate test to know that we were dealing with somebody righteous, okay. When I brought the dope to the lab, there was a guy there that I knew. He went to St. John's University, but I knew him from playing baseball. He was a good player. So I think his name was John. I said, John, can you educate me? I mean, I knew about drugs, but not specifically what I needed to know. Can you tell me what I need to know about heroin and cocaine? How would I know really how the heroin is good or cocaine is good. So he showed me. He says heroin rolls. It's like sand. It'll roll back and forth, okay? And it won't smudge anything. If it smudges, that means that's the cut, okay? Cocaine, you rub it on your hand. It's like an oil. Taste it. It's very sharp. Smell it. Very sharp. Has a stink smell. So I went with that and other things that he told me. So I created a little kit, like a little leather wallet. I had a mirror in there, a mirror. I had a penknife, and I had a little vials that I created to test the drugs. Okay, so whenever I got the heroin or cocaine, I would put it on the glass, and I would run it back and forth. Then I would test it. But usually that was a principal test. If it ran back, if it did what it's supposed to do, then I said, okay, it's a positive field test. So we did that. Where was I going with that? So we had that. Uh, I got lost from it, Michael.
Talking about going to Barnes and being taken to the man.
Okay, so all right, so we did that with Petey.
Yeah.
The next thing we did was Wally took us to see one of the main guys in Nicky's organization, and it was at the Ducassi's Club, Club 82. This club was like a nightclub. It was run by Joseph Hayden, aka Jazz.
Right.
And a gold chain with a medal on it that said Jazz. Okay, he was a proprietor. You go in there. There was a guy at the door. All right, I got through there because Wally was with us. Right, I went to see him. Wally said to Jazz, "This is the guy I want to introduce you to." So anyway, we talked for a while. I gave him the spiel about this, that, and the other. I talked to him about the Italians that wanted to deal with me, and that I was very partial to the blacks because I had friends in the service that were black, and I was on a boxing team. I was the only non-black guy on the team. Okay,
Mm.
so I had to be good, and I wasn't good. So anyway, so I told him I have no problem in dealing with the brothers because I think I'm a frustrated brother. I told him. So anyway, he told me, I like you, kid. I like it. I said, well, hopefully we can do something. So anyway, we left it at that. And me and G started working Harlem. We go into clubs, we meet people, we started to get known in Harlem. Uh, then there came a time when I did go again to see Jazz, and we set up a deal for 5 kilos, believe it or not. Uh, oh, no, before that? Oh, well before that. I got to tell you this one. Jazz Commiss, no, another guy that we had that Wally made friends with, Monsanto, a guy named Monsanto, and he was going to deliver a half key to us. He never did, so that broke down what we were supposed to do. However, Wally and G go to Bubba Jean's Emporium. That's where Jazz had a little record store, a little stuff, and so they walked in there to complain to Jazz because Jazz set the deal up, right? So while they're there, I was down the block away. I had an eyeball on the place, and I had a little portable with me also. I hear traffic. He's on his way. We got him. He had Nick. They had Nicky. We got the man. We got the man. So they tailed him to the place. Okay, and they dropped off. I see Nicky walk into the place. I hold my cool, maybe half hour. They come out. Lou, we got Nicky in conversation about what he got to do, where we got to go. What did he say? He was pissed off that the deal didn't go down. He said, if you want to do the deal, you go see Fat Stevie Monsanto, okay, at the Harlem River Motors Garage. So that's what we did. One night we went to saw Fat Stevie. We set up a deal for half a key. There came a time when we drove up the Harlem River Motors Garage. That's another thing. Nicky had this garage also. It was called the Harlem Rivers Motor Garage. He also leased cars out of there because he knew that if the cops brought it down, they couldn't get back to him. Because if you see something and it's related to a drug deal or drugs, you seize it, whether it's a house, money, or whatever. Okay, that's part of the law. So he would have these cars that were leased out, but they had no way of getting to him because it was done. It was leased to another person, right? So he had these cars. So we went there one day and we made the deal with Fat Stevie, half a kilo of heroin. We left it at that. Let me see. Sorry, back step a little bit. But these things are running in my head, Mike, and it's a long time ago, you know.
Mhm.
So, and I was set up in a gas station across the street, so I could see everything that was going on. Actually, Monsanto had the heroin in the garage. Okay,
Mhm.
so G says to me, he went out there and he talked to Monsanto. He comes back, he says, Louis, I got to see the money. Again, back to the same thing again, fronting the money, which I shouldn't have done, but I did. Before I fronted the money, G goes, you know, Louis, I'm naked. I'm naked. He used to have a gun. He used to call the baby Jesus. And I didn't mind him carrying it. And I was supposed to report him for that because you're not supposed to have a gun if you're not a federal. You're licensed to carry, right? But he didn't have it. I had an extra piece, so I let him have it. You're not supposed to do that, but I did. Because his life was in danger, you know? I got called on a copper for that later on. But anyway, so I did that. He went in, got the dough from Monsanto. Monsanto shakes his hand, looks over to me, gives him a package. G walks out to me, package, dopes, looks good, tastes good. He said, okay, we're good. While I'm there, Nicky pulls up, shakes hand with Monsanto, they hug, and he goes like this. So as if to say, the deal went down, good job, right? We pull out. We had a surveillance post right across the street in an apartment building. They were taking all kind of shots of Nicky meeting with Monsanto, all that, the deal going down. So we had all kind of evidence regarding the situation, regarding Nicky, who was accumulating. We were working on a conspiracy case, and the conspiracy case is not that complicated, but basically what it involves is a meeting of the mind by two people to further a crime. And all you need is one action, one act, and the motive in furthering that crime. So we had a conspiracy going. Uh, what else happened? So from there, what happened? From there, what else happened? Oh, Jazz comes into the picture again. Jazz wants me to launder money for them because I told him I could launder money. I want you to launder $10,000 for me just to get started. So I take his money. I go to laundry. I have a guy who's a banker, not a banker. He played the part of a banker in a restaurant downtown. And I said, okay. And I go with another guy, Wayne Sasso. He had the money in the bag. So I tell him, you mind if I put my money in there? I'm looking to wash money myself. I was going to ingratiate myself with them, right? So I put my money in the bag. I go to see, his name was, what was his name? Joe, whatever. So we go into the place. I see Joe. He gives me the money. We watch to see who's looking. Nobody. We're cool. Go into the bathroom. There's an agent there. I said, listen, it went down. Okay. I leave the place. I go back to my car where G is. I tell Wayne Satchel, it went down. It went down. I said, nice and clean. Okay. That was that. Then there came another time when Jazz says to Wally, you know, your man came through for us. Now I want you to do a $40,000 or $70,000 money watch. That's a lot of money, bro. Anyway, make a long story short, I set up a deal with him to do it. Okay. So I go to his club, we talk. I said, okay, I'll be back. We'll set up the deal. Anyway, I go back to the office and I gather up $70,000 and what they call official advance funds. And I go to the place with a friend of mine who was acting as my partner, Mike Levine, big guy, who's also a very good undercover. He was going to cover my back. Now, Wally was with me also. We're walking into the club, and here's this big guy guarding the door. He says, who are you? I'm so and so. I'm a friend of Jazz. You ain't getting in here. So I told him, we're friends of Jazz. He said, well, let me call up. So he calls up to Jazz. He tells him who we are. And Jazz tells, I hope if I can say to Jazz, you let him in or I'll put my foot up your ass. You know? So he lets us in. I go up to see Jazz. We're at the counter. He brings out a box with his money. Now I got to get money. So I got to see that he's got his money.
Mhm.
So I tell Wally, Geronimo, to go down and get Mike. Mike comes up with the money. He gives it to me. I make the deal. Okay, Mike goes back out. That was it. So we make the deal. That was that. Then after that, it was a series of meetings to lock up, to verify all the things that we did. And it's more than that, Mike. I just can't remember everything.
It's
I'll put
fine.
it, huh?
It's fine.
Okay. Uh, there came a time when we met with Jazz in a restaurant not far from there, and we discussed what was going on. Also, try to get Jazz to give me 5 keys. Okay. This time it was cocaine. So we tried to do it. He said he would. We also talked about having done the deal with Monsanto, having done the money wash, and we talked about some other things. And he says, Lou, there's some things that are out of my hand. I got to consult with the boss, Nicky. Boom. He puts Nicky into the pot, right? It was the first time he really mentioned Nicky. I think that's the first time he mentioned him. So we had finished dinner. We left, but the place was really nice, you know. So we got another thing on him. He mentioned that he could do the deal with us, Nicky, so forth and so on. We leave. Then it comes the time that we try and do the cocaine deal with. It was cocaine, not heroin, with Jazz. I'm in the neighborhood, Harlem River Motors Garage. We're supposed to consummate the deal. Okay. I'm with my partner, Bobby Nieves. He's looking out for me. I drive down the street and I see all kind of guys, cops, who look like cops to me, in surveillance cars. I don't recognize these people. They don't look my people. So anyway, when I drive by the garage, Jazz and Nicky are outside. I said, Jazz, no good, no good. We ain't doing this now. Okay. I drive away, and that was that. I see Jazz a couple of days later, and he says to me, Louie, that was right what you did because this place was crawling with cops. I said, but how is that? They're not my people. And I didn't tell him that, but they're not my people. There was an observation post, another one across the street, and it was a numbers operation, IRS agents.
Mm.
So I took it down like that. But it made me look good that I called off the deal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because a 5 kilo deal, man, that would have looked good for us. Okay. So that didn't happen because of what happened. What else happened after that? Woo! So he turned out a 5 kilo deal. Because after that, he couldn't come up with it. He stashed it.
Yeah.
What else happened after that? Oh, and then he introduced me. Wally introduced me to a guy big guy named, oh God. Well, he had dope also, and he was a confederate of Nicky as well.
Mhm.
And we consummated a half kilo with him in the garage, in Nicky's garage. This was a nice scene. I get to the place, they know I'm coming. All right. The front of the entrance has lined up with at least 8 black big men. It looked like the front line for the Giants defense team. All right. So I say, all right, here it goes, Louis. I started thinking to myself, this is it. So I'm thinking of my kids, I'm thinking of my wife. I get out of the car and my legs feel like mud, like I'm walking in mud. So finally I get close to them. Boom! They open up like the sea, like the Red Sea. I go through. I felt, ooh, wow, that was great, man. I felt so good after that. Walked in. I met this fella. What was his name, man? Anyway, he directs me to a car. He says the dope is there. That's the first time I saw the dope and gave the money after. Gave the money to him after. That was Wally's car was a Corvette. Wally loved cars. I drove out in the Corvette. We met at a predestined location. That was that. There's a lot of nice things that went down with this too, by the way. Uh, but I wasn't supposed to do that deal, and I got authorization in a left-handed way, but I won't go into that right now. So we did that. Then there came a time when we we negotiated for another 5 kilos, and this was it. This was the end of it because DEA could not come up with any more money. No more money, no more deals. I said, "Holy Mac, we had a great case going. We could do a lot more." So I got into a little rough, a little how you say, a little altercation with them, but I worked it out. So we met at a predestined location. I was in a van, and the deal was that if the guy didn't come, then we arrest him, and I would have to indicate that to them by opening the door to the van. So Wally comes back to me and says, "Louis, the guy ain't there." So I opened the door. They all flocked down, and we take them down. That was it. That was it. We take Nicky down. We take everybody down that was arrested. Took down about 14 guys in Harlem that night. Hit all the papers the next day. It was like mainstream headlines. Okay, and from there we prepared for trial. I think we prepared like maybe 2 months. We listened to the tapes. Yeah, because we had we had mics inside the garage. Okay, and it was funny. It was funny. Some of the tapes were funny because what we got was a lot of music, brother music, soul music. When it was on, we would jig with it. We would dance to the music. It was so cool. Uh, uh, so we
So,
did. Uh,
I'll ask you, after a case of that size, and this is a notorious figure you're bringing down. Now you're probably dealing with a little bit of notoriety because you're the guy that managed to touch and ultimately stop Mr. Untouchable. So, as far as the aftermath of an operation like that and dealing with the higher profile, how did that impact your career? Obviously, in the positive sense, it made you a legend in the DEA, but maybe even negatively, you probably had to change a lot of the ways in which you operated after such a high profile thing like that.
Absolutely. However, Mike, I want to add another thing that just came to my mind.
Sure.
Nicky had an organization called the Council.
Yes.
It was a consortium of 7 guys that he knew, and each had their own drug trade, but Nicky supplied the heroin. So they had their own, how do you say, activities were independent from one another. Okay. They went down too because I got a couple of them and they added to the conspiracy because one guy talked about the other. He turned, what we call turn, as he gave up information. So little by little, they started going down, and pretty much I was responsible for the council getting taken down. And even Nicky admitted to that. He said, "Son of a, it's Louis, unbelievable what you did to us." So anyway, we left with that. But in answer to your question, I was getting calls from everybody across the nation. Good guys that I worked with. I was a team player also. Besides being independent, Michael, uh, I never wanted to really get that much attention. I didn't never want to create jealousy from my fellow agents. But I know how guys feel about that. And I tried not to do that. However, during that period of time, there were promotions, 6 promotions that were available for grade 13s. That was the next grade up from me. I was a grade 12. Grade 13 is commensurate with money. And it's a lot of money, maybe a $3,000, $4,000 raise. So I was at my desk and I was getting calls from guys that I knew. Congratulations, Lou, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. So that day I stood behind my desk and I saw guys walking by me to the front office. They were being called for the promotion. So I waited. 1, I waited. 2, waited. 3, 6 guys passed by, not me. Buddy, I blew a fit. I blew a fit. I walked into the ASAC's office, and I tell you, I let him have it. I let him have it. And he said, "Well, Lou, it was close. It was like a dot game." I said, "Well, this ain't a dot game, man. This is my career. This is my life. I put it on the line for you, blah, 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 blah. And this is what I get." So I left it at that. I left. And then my boss, another guy, another ASAC, I went into his office. I said, "Listen, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take off for a little bit." I threw down my shield and my gun. I said, "I'm going to be gone for a while." I came back. I did. I went away from a week, and I wasn't charged leave or vacation because my boss looked out for me. He was very good to me because I was very good to them. I was like again, I don't want to brag, but I was like the star quarterback for the group. Okay.
With an operation like that, sure, it's not
Yeah.
a brag at all. It's fact.
Yeah. And I made cases for the other guys. I gave them work actually. I gave them work what to follow up with. So that happened. But what I did was instead of falling out, instead of dropping down, I came back with a vengeance. I came back with a vengeance. I called up an informant that I had. I said, "Let's go to work." Mike, I made 10 cases in 1 year, arrested maybe 20 guys in 1 year. I did more cases than the task force did in 1 year. It was simply they couldn't believe it that I did that. And I did that after being knocked on my ass. Okay. And after that, I didn't get nothing either. So I, I got a letter of commendation, that was done. But other than that, I got my share of awards, so I can't really complain. But I didn't get that. That was a big one that I got messed up on. And then after that, let's see what happened. That was that. In answer to your question, I felt very lonely and like, how would you say, like a man with no more fights, like a retired gunfighter, you know. I was no more gunfights to have, uh, or no more opponents to fight. Okay, and I was still in shape. Okay, uh, so I felt very lonely. There was no competition. There was no nothing. And the guys in the group, they had some cases, but I wasn't a part of them. Okay, so I was feeling bad for a long time about that. Kind of depressed too, for that matter. And the only way I got back out of that, I started making cases again. I got back out of that. And as far as the other question was, how did I motivate me to do something else? Is that the other part, the second part of the question?
How did it change the way you operated?
Oh, how did I change the way I operate?
Well, you've pretty much touched on that with what you've said. You didn't want there to be any jealousy. You didn't want there to be any bad feelings. And you went out there and you got to it. But, and I imagine when I went moving ahead, when you did leave in 2003, even with not getting that award that you've wanted and talking about how you missed out, 32 years federal law enforcement, those big operations, smart operations, on a whim in a dangerous time. When I mentioned what 70s New York was like, 80s New York was like, really early 90s New York, even before Broken Windows and Bill Bratton and all of that there came in, you operated in a very dangerous time. Leaving in 2003, you had to have a great deal of satisfaction. And I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong here, you left with no regrets.
True. Absolutely correct.
Mhm.
I held my head up high, but you're correct. Absolutely correct. I had no whims about what I did. I was very proud of what I did. And the other thing too, Mike, uh, there's another side to this whole thing, and it goes. We will eliminate. We won't talk about my childhood. Well, my childhood was, as much as it was great. My neighborhood, I told you about how colorful it was, how great it was. I loved my dad, but he was pretty tough for me. Okay, he kind of he kind of made me tough for the street. Okay, but he never gave me any credit for anything. So I always tried to make him proud of me. So my job was like a stage where I performed, and I wanted to get the applause, but for him. So that was part of my motivation for doing well. Uh, that was part of it too. That was part of it too.
So looking at things now, quiet life, you're settled in. As you said, there's no more fights to chase. There's no more guys to put away. What's life? I know you've been acting. I know you've gotten into other stuff. What's life been like for you since the end of things in 2003, as far as law enforcement goes?
Well, I tell you, I went into a flunk. I really did. Matter of fact, I went into a depression. It was bad too. However, my wife pushed me to write a book about my experiences, about my cases. If you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So I got on it. I got on it. And I got an agent, and guy was very good, Frank Wyman. He had a lot of success with a lot of other guys. And he brought me to a writer named uh, Hirschfeld, Neil Hirschfeld. And we met. He was taking what I had to say. He was with me for about a week. We collaborated for 2 years. Every day I did something. I wrote something. And I enjoyed writing, by the way. Anyway, I wrote for all that period of time. I gave him a lot of ammunition. I pretty much made the book for him, but he pretty much managed to put everything in place. Okay, and he came out and he did well. It was pretty much close to being a bestseller. Simon and Schuster took it on. It's called Dancing with the Devil, Tales of an Undercover Agent. Uh, And that was that. So I was very happy about that. I was very proud about that. And I got a lot of accolades behind that. And the other thing too is I was waiting for it to be taken up to make a movie or series out of it. Nothing happened. My agents took me to a lot of people to get it done. Nothing happened. I mean, Andy Garcia, uh, Jimmy Smits, uh, the other fella. My mind is, I'm drawing blanks right now, Mike. Uh, Quite a number of people. So I said to myself, not for nothing, but they got stories about, and I'm not going racist on this, but Italian guys got stories, Serpico, uh, other guys, Irish guys got stories about them. What happened to the Spanish guys? There's nobody out there that's a hero for them. Nobody. And I thought that was maybe something that was holding me back because on the book it's a Diaz, you know what I mean? I could have went with my undercover name Casal, it might have been better. But I felt that. I felt that might be the problem why it wasn't going anywhere. But I stayed with that. But we may have some luck now. Some other things are happening. Uh, and I've always had some, like with you, I've always had some major interviews with major people. I said, Jesus, you think somebody would pick it up? I had a main article with Reader's Digest. It was the main topic for the book that year. Uh, Magazine articles, newspaper articles, the Times, every other newspaper in New York. It just went on and on and on. And you know what pisses me off, if I may say? Frank Lucas, was just an underling for Nicky Barnes. And he just told his story, which was, can I say it? There's a word to describe it, but it's pack of lies.
Yeah.
Pack of lies. He exaggerated it because he felt nobody's going to catch him. Right?
Right.
He was saying that the heroin came in coffins. That was exaggeration. Never happened. Okay. This, that. Frank could not even find the area code for Thailand. He was really working on zero brains. But he did have organization. He had guys that backed him up, right? However, he had the luck that these two brothers, they were excellent. I mean, big shots in the business. Oh, come on. They did a lot of big stuff. They read the article. The rest is magic. They did the movie. And they got.
I'm trying to think of who you're talking about. It escapes me too. Would you have an idea of what kind of what they look like or what race they are? Like, are they?
Basically Anglo-Saxons.
Oh, okay.
Kind of professional looking,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can look it up and see while you tell the story. You can continue.
What else did they do? They did a lot of major movies which don't come to my mind right now.
Coen brothers?
Huh?
Coen brothers?
No.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think one of them committed suicide not too long ago.
That's terrible. I'm trying to think. Well, you can continue with the story while I look it up.
Okay, but anyway, so they picked it up, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And as far as the movie is concerned, Denzel Washington made Frank Lucas what he is. Denzel Washington, I mean, he's a great actor, and he made him what he was. He brought him to the fore, as far as representing him what he was,
Right.
So that was that. With that, so another dream went to the basement,
Yeah.
So what else is there? So after that, again, the same thing. Oh, I did about 3 or 4 documentaries for History Channel, for Discovery Channel. There's a station, it's a black station also. What is it called?
BET.
Yeah, it's BET. I did it for them. I did a few others, major stuff. Nothing happened with that either. And it was really well done, Mike. Really well done. Matter of fact, you can pull it up on YouTube. One of them was called Gangland, Gangsters. The other one is Mobsters.
It's on A&E.
Huh?
It's on A&E. Channel A&E.
I don't think so.
Is it? If you go on YouTube, you type in that show. I know the show you're talking about because I watched it, and yeah, it's up there. Definitely up there.
You saw it?
Yeah, well, not that specific episode, but some of the other. They've profiled Gotti, Nicky Scarfo, things like that, and
Okay.
and it's on the television network A&E.
Okay.
Mm.
That could be. I haven't seen it there,
Yeah.
But in one of those, in the History Channel interview,
Mm.
Nicky's interview, I'm bragging on this one, okay? It justified. It really pumped me up. They interviewed Nicky,
Mm.
and I'll tell you basically his words. Louis Diaz, a sharp guy. He was the one that ultimately took me down on the council, et cetera, et cetera. When he said that, I mean, boom, I went crazy. That was some evidence for me to show guys were not thinking what I did was they didn't believe what I did. They were taking credit. You know how many people took credit for this case? You won't believe. What is that saying? Uh, Victory has a lot of fathers, defeat but one.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly true.
Something like that.
Yep.
But there was a lot of guys taking credit for that case. But
Right.
so I had that, and I put it out there, And then there was
Right.
another interview with Nicky. He said some very nice things. Then he came out with a book, Mr. Untouchable, and there's a chapter describing almost the whole case. The whole case. I think it was page 114. It begins. I'll make sure that I've read it, you know. But let's see what else is there. So we got that. We got that. We got that. I don't know if you're gonna get it. We have time to get because you put down a lot of things for me to get into. But there's
Well,
one. I don't know if you want to get. Is there going to be a time when we get into mob guys or anything like that?
well, if you wanted to tell a quick story, on one investigation, I know there was one that you wanted to get to. We can get to that. It's up to you.
The only thing I'm a little, how would you say? I think I told you that ahead of time.
Yeah, if you don't want to, I can edit this part out, and
Yeah, fine.
yeah, I could edit this part out if you don't want to get into it. We could just skip ahead to something else, you know. 'Cause we've been on for almost like an hour, 20 minutes, and we've covered a lot of good stuff. You told a lot of great stories, so it's up to you. If you want to get into it, we'll get into it. If you don't, we won't.
Okay, let's see what that is. How's that going down?
Yeah.
Oh, about 5, 6. Honey, how long ago was that? I get subpoenaed by the FBI about 10 years ago.
Mm.
Okay, to testify in the case, which I kind of balked at, and had to do with a capo, Bartholomew Bonacci,
Mhm.
aka Pepe, aka Glasses. The name rung a bell when I dealt with Pepe on the phone or
Mhm.
with some other guys that I was dealing with. We were called by a guy from Rikers Island, yeah, to go down there. He had a potential informant that had information on the guy that was doing guns and dope. Right? So I went down there with my partner. We interviewed the guy, and while he's talking, I know this guy. This guy is Perky, you know. But Perky wasn't a bad guy. Basically, gambling. He did a few guns. Never did narcotics. But he was a decent guy. I mean, a decent human being. Like most of these mob guys, a lot of them are good people. What they do is bad, but they're basically okay. So anyway, he gives me that information. I walk out of the joint with my partner. He said, "What are we gonna do with that?" I said, "We're gonna ditch it. We're gonna ditch it." And we ditched it. I didn't put it in a report. I didn't report it. And that was that with that. Uh, so anyway, in the trial, one of the defense attorneys reads my book, and during the course of the trial, it was important to know some of the elements of the case. The guy was a capo, and I believe it was a Colombo family, and his name was, like I said, Veracci. Uh, this guy came up in a case that I had in the village where I scored a kilo of heroin from a guy named Erbacher. And these guys like were bohemians, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I did the deal with that guy. There was another guy in there. I said, listen, this is good, but I'm looking to open my store. Again, the same line. Uh, I can't do any business unless I have a steady supply. So he says, well, I'll tell you what. We got a few guys that we're in business with there, made guys. They're organized crime. He says, really? Absolutely. We can get you to them. Who are they? And he mentioned one guy, his name was Pepe. I got a guy, his name Pepe. I don't know why he mentioned his name, but he did. So we left it at that. Uh, we terminated the case at that point. Then there came a time when we followed the guys that I did the deal with to an apartment house in Queens. Okay, my guys did a good job of establishing where the apartment was and where they went into. Right. Then there came a time when we raided the place, went into the apartment. All the guys were there, so we took them down. And I said, "Where's Declan and some other guy?" He said, "I don't know." So we waited there. They're on a trip. We waited there. We wait. A lot of law enforcement is waiting, waiting and waiting and waiting. They came. They came into the door. We took them down. They had a kilo of heroin and $55,000 in cash. So we took them down. That was another, how would you say, in our basket, if you will. Then there was another fella by the name of Cuccio. I saw him in the bedroom, and he had a bandage around his head. I said, he was a nice guy. I think he reminded me of a guy in my neighborhood. I said, "What happened to you?" He said, "Last night I got shot." I said, "My God, who are you hanging with?" He said, "Well, some nice guys. I didn't like what I did. Uh, but he was a funny guy. So anyway, I took care of him, as I did with many of my prisoners. I didn't treat them wrong. If they wanted, I didn't kowtow to them either. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I treated them correctly. I always did, with respect and dignity, even though some of them didn't deserve it. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't a bad guy with them. So anyway, let's see. So we got that happening. So in the courtroom, it comes out that this guy Gekla was one of the guys that came with the money. Him and Bonacci and another guy, they were on trial for this particular case where they whacked two guys in a bar, a Shamrock bar in Queens, because one of the guys was arguing and felt bad because a girl, he spilled a drink on a girl that was the girlfriend of a mob guy that was there. They got into words. Bonacci was there. He left the place and came back with Gekla and a couple of other guys, and they whacked the two of them. So they were charging him with that murder. Also, they charged him with narcotics violation based upon a conversation I had with them on the phone, which came up later. But when I was in the apartment, there was a telephone call, and I said, "Don't nobody pick up." So I told him, "All right, Frankie, you pick up." He picks up. I get on the other extension. Who's Pepe? He says, "Frankie, what's going on? What's going on, Frankie? Can we do something? Can we do the deal?" Pepe, forget about it. We can't do nothing. Is something wrong? Absolutely. They hang up. That was it. So we got him on that. We got him on that. That was evidence, believe it or not. So, so the defense attorney brings up the thing with Perky, and he brings up the thing with the gun with Geronimo that I gave him the gun. Okay. Then this son of a gun, Capizzi, right? So now he had a column on gangsters, and I wish I could take it out because it's in Wikipedia.
Mhm.
And he goes, you can look it up. If you look up DEA Agent Lou Diaz, it pretty much shows everything that I did. And he says, "We're dealing with an angel, but it's not an angel. He professes to be a decent guy, but he does things that are not that decent. So we got to wonder about who he really is." Basically that, because of what I did with Perky and Geronimo. I took really offense to that. I wanted to get back at him, but I couldn't. I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't do it. But actually, in totality, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. It could have been worse. So I got that. That was the case. That was the mob case that I was involved in. There's a few other ones too, but that was basically the biggest one that I was involved in.
Well, that was a great story, and it's one of many that I guess from that era that you don't see anymore. And as Joe Pistone told me this, they're still around, but they're not nearly as powerful as they once were. They'll always be around, but their power in terms of running entire cities through unions, through mayors and councilmen and congressmen and senators, even that they bribed. That's thankfully a thing of the past. Lewis, has been a great conversation, and I can definitely bring it back another time for part two. I think the audience would love it, and if you would be open to that, that'd be great. But for now, we'll end it on a segment that we call Rapid Fire. People want to talk Lou Diaz. He's a man of the people.
Well, before you do that,
Yes.
I just want to tell you, you're a sharp guy, Mike. Sharp guy. Your questions are right on the money. and the way you present yourself is really class act. You're a class act, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're more than welcome, man.
Means a lot coming from you. It's this segment is rapid fire. It's 5 hit and run questions from me, 5 hit and run answers from you. You can say pass if you want. Are you ready?
Okay.
First, funniest colleagues you ever worked with?
Bobby Nevis. I can tell you what he did to me if you want to know.
Is it suitable to tell on the air?
Yeah, it's absolutely so funny,
Okay.
really. When when we on the street, we flash the credentials on the badge. Nobody challenges us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we used to go out and we had to serve subpoenas behind the case that we did, right? So every time I flashed my credentials, people would have a smirk on their face. After a while, I said, "What the hell is this?" Why? So one day I go to the office, I throw my. Usually you put the gun on your desk, you throw the credentials on your desk. I threw my credentials on my desk. It opened up, and where the credentials read DEA and all that, there was a picture of a monkey. I said, "You son of a." It was that monkey. What was that monkey's name? For Tarzan. What was that monkey? Anyway, it was a picture of a monkey. I chased him all over the building. But anyway, that's what he did, among other things. But really great guy. Really great guy.
Second.
Go
Go ahead. No, go ahead. My apologies.
No, funniest guy. That's it. He tops everybody, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anybody else as funny as he was.
Second, best advice anyone ever gave you?
Well, I'll tell you, my dad was great for that, and he gave me many things. And, it's funny, but it's not funny. But some of us have good teachers and they tell you certain things, but you never forget if you have a good father, you never forget what they tell you. And some of the things my father told me growing up, he says, never go into a fight thinking what the other guy is going to do to you. Never. Always fight or do something. You got to be in the right. Never borrow money from a friend because you lose the friend and you lose the money. Never go into a house, a guy's house where the wife answers the door. Never go in. Always wear a shirt when you meet a lady. those are really my grandmother told me. Also, my grandma gave me 3 tenets. I was a kid, first grade. Don't come home crying. Don't snitch on anybody. And if you get hit, and if he's bigger than you, take the first thing and hit him over the head. That was my grandmother. That was my grandmother. I gotta say, that was kind of best advice I got, among other things. That's what I remember, really.
Most of it works. Most of it works for sure. Third, favorite cop show or a cop movie?
Come on. Oh, come on. It was on for 12 seasons, I think. God, it was great. Very, come on.
NYPD Blue?
Yes. Matter of fact, I acted in 3 of those.
Really?
Yeah. I got 2
That
parts.
was a great show. NYPD Blue is a great show.
Outstanding.
Outstanding indeed. Fourth, favorite bar or restaurant in New York City?
I got to tell you something. I never was one to go out like that, restaurants or bar. I never hung out in any of those places. Never. I never did. I just never did.
All right, that's fine. Home cooking's not bad either. Fifth and finally, knowing what you know now, if you can go back in time and give advice to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell a young Lou Diaz?
Depending on the situation, of course. If it was on the job, right? Don't be taken by any stories that they tell you. If the guy has to take time and bring in the dope in, he says, I'm going to be back, and it takes more than an hour or so. Quotes the deal because you don't have the dope. He's looking for it. Okay? You don't have it. Don't jeopardize your life for nothing. Don't spin wheels. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, really. Well, I mean, there's so many things. And right now I'm fatigued, Michael.
Sorry.
I mean, I can think of a lot of things, but they're not coming to my mind right now. The other thing I would tell a young man is like, finish school, go to college, finish school. And if you want to, go into the service and become an officer and use their benefits to further your education again. If you want to get a master's or a doctorate, and from there go on, And if you're going to do anything, be it work or you're with somebody, do it honorably, do it honorably. Always consider the consequences of your actions.
Good stuff. Good words to live by. Lou, this has been a lot of fun. Shout out to the audience. As always, I wanted to give you guys a little treat, and I will this Friday when you hear this episode. Like I said, it's being recorded on a Monday. This is great, and I definitely love to bring you back for part 2 sometime. Before we go, want to say hello to anyone or anything?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, let me see. I guess I could. I got a lot of guys I could say hello to. Ray Martinez, my first partner. Ray D'Angelo, my goomba from New York. Pat Matarazzo, my goomba from New York. Who else is there? Desi Gonzalez, my neighbor, was a great guy. I trust him with my life. Joe Strobe, a pastor lives on the corner. That's about it, really.
All right. Well, thank you. And this has been great. Coming up next on the Mike Colón podcast, at the time that you hear this, is going to be Boom Room Week. And I say that because it'll be volumes 21 and 22 of Tales from the Boom Room coming up on Tuesday and Friday, respectively. First, we'll interview retired NYPD Arson Explosion Squad Sergeant Fred Manzalillo. And then next Friday, Bomb Squad Sergeant, retired, that is, of course, Eddie Hayes. So in the meantime, on behalf of retired DEA Agent Lou Diaz, I am Mike Colón, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Have a great weekend.
Excellent.